The Roman Empire was one of the most powerful civilizations in human history. At its height, Rome ruled vast lands across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Its armies conquered nations, its laws shaped governments, its roads connected worlds, its language influenced entire cultures. And even today, thousands of years later, Rome still shapes the modern world. But here is the deeper question. How did a small city in Italy become one of the greatest empires the world had ever seen? And if Rome became so strong, so rich, and so dominant, why did it still fall? Because the story of Rome is not just the story of conquest. It is the story of discipline, ambition, order, violence, corruption, overexpansion, adaptation, and decline. It is the story of how a civilization can rise higher than almost anyone imagined and still become vulnerable from within. In this video, we are going to walk through the rise, the glory, and the fall of the Roman Empire in a simple, clear, and engaging way. And as you watch, keep one question in mind. Was Rome destroyed by its enemies or by its own success? To understand the empire, we first need to understand Rome itself. According to Roman tradition, Rome was founded in 753 BC. Whether that exact date is historical or symbolic matters less than the larger truth. Rome did not begin as a world power. It began as a small settlement in central Italy, surrounded by rivals, uncertainty, and danger. Nothing about early Rome guaranteed greatness. It was not the richest city. It was not the largest. It was not the most advanced civilization of its age. But Rome had something unusual: discipline, political flexibility, military organization, and a relentless ability to recover from setbacks. That last point is crucial. Many powers can win. Far fewer can lose badly and come back even stronger. Rome did that again and again. Over time, Rome developed first as a monarchy, then as a republic. Under the Roman Republic, power was not supposed to belong to a king. Instead, Rome created a political system built around magistrates, assemblies, and the Senate. This system was not democratic in the modern sense. Wealthy elites dominated it. Powerful families shaped public life, but it gave Rome stability, continuity, and a structure strong enough to support expansion. As the Republic grew, Rome conquered more of Italy. Then it looked beyond the peninsula. And that is when Rome met one of the most dangerous rivals in its history, Carthage. The conflict between Rome and Carthage became the Punic Wars, one of the most decisive struggles of the ancient world. Carthage was rich, maritime, and militarily formidable. And it had Hannibal. Hannibal remains one of the most legendary commanders in military history for one reason above all. He did the unthinkable. He crossed the Alps with elephants and invaded Italy. For Rome, this was a nightmare. The Republic suffered devastating defeats. Fear spread. Rome looked vulnerable. At certain moments, it seemed entirely possible that Rome might never recover. But it did recover. And that may be one of the greatest secrets of Roman success. Rome could absorb disaster, reorganize, and come back harder. Eventually, Carthage was defeated. That victory changed everything. Rome was no longer just a strong regional power. It was becoming the dominant force of the Mediterranean. Now wealth poured in, territory expanded, tribute flowed into Roman hands. Slaves, resources, prestige, and influence strengthened the Republic. Rome conquered lands in Hispania, Greece, North Africa, and the Eastern Mediterranean. But conquest brought more than glory. It brought pressure. As Rome became richer, it also became more unequal. The gap between elites and ordinary citizens widened. Ambitious generals built personal loyalty from their armies. Political rivalry became more aggressive. Corruption deepened. Violence entered public life more openly. Rome was winning abroad, but destabilizing itself at home. And that tension opened the door to Julius Caesar. Caesar was a brilliant general, a masterful politician, and a man of enormous ambition. His conquest of Gaul made him famous, feared, and extraordinarily powerful. To some Romans, Caesar was a hero. To others, he looked like the man who might destroy the Republic itself. Then came one of the most iconic moments in ancient history. In 49 BC, Caesar crossed the Rubicon. That act was more than a military movement. It was an open challenge to the Roman political order. Civil war followed. Caesar defeated his rivals and emerged as the dominant man in Rome. Eventually, he was declared dictator for life. That was too much for many senators. In 44 BC, Julius Caesar was assassinated. His killers believed they were saving the Republic. Instead, they accelerated its collapse. More civil wars followed. More alliances broke apart. More Roman blood was spilled. And from that chaos emerged Caesar's adopted heir, Octavian. Later known as Augustus, he became the true founder of the Roman Empire. Augustus understood something extremely important. Open domination creates resistance, so instead of destroying republican institutions completely, he preserved their appearance while concentrating real power in his own hands. In theory, Rome was still a republic. In reality, the empire had begun. Under Augustus, civil war ended. Order returned. Administration improved. The military was stabilized. Trade expanded. Cities flourished. Imperial authority became durable. Rome had entered a new age. This was the beginning of one of the most famous eras in world history, the Pax Romana. For roughly 2 centuries, the empire experienced extraordinary strength and relative stability. Roman roads linked distant provinces. Merchants moved goods across enormous distances. Legions guarded frontiers stretching from Britain to the Near East. Aqueducts supplied cities with water. Forums, baths, temples, and amphitheaters projected power. Rome became more than a city. It became a system of law, a system of military control, a system of administration, a system of taxation, a system of identity. Latin spread across the Western Empire. Greek remained dominant across much of the East. Roman law became one of the most influential legal traditions in human history. At the center stood the emperor, symbol of Roman unity and Roman authority. Some emperors ruled effectively, others ruled disastrously, and that was one of the empire's deepest structural weaknesses. A system this large became highly dependent on who controlled it. At its height, under emperors like Trajan, Rome ruled a vast domain. The empire looked magnificent, unstoppable, almost eternal. But beneath the marble, the ceremony, the roads, and the victories, deeper pressures were building. Long borders had to be defended. Armies had to be paid. Provinces had to be controlled. Rebellions had to be suppressed. Succession had to be managed. And the larger Rome became, the harder it became to hold together. This is one of history's great lessons. Expansion creates glory, but overexpansion creates strain. Rome's grandeur was real. So were its weaknesses. Rome itself became one of the largest cities in the ancient world. Markets were crowded. Grain from Egypt fed the population. The Colosseum hosted mass spectacle. Public baths became huge social spaces. Monuments projected permanence and imperial confidence. The Roman military remained one of the most feared fighting machines in history. Roman legions combined discipline, engineering, logistics, and battlefield coordination better than almost anyone. That military superiority helped preserve imperial order, but it also created danger, because armies were often loyal not just to Rome, but to the men who commanded and paid them. And when power depends too heavily on military loyalty, instability becomes permanent. That danger became brutally clear during the 3rd century. This was one of the darkest chapters in Roman history. Emperors rose and fell rapidly. Many were assassinated. Civil wars erupted again and again. Foreign invasions intensified. Inflation damaged the economy. Plague weakened the population. Confidence in imperial stability began to erode. Rome did not collapse immediately, but for the first time it looked fragile. At times, parts of the empire even broke away. The Roman world that had once seemed unshakable now looked vulnerable from every direction. And yet, once again, Rome adapted. Diocletian introduced major reforms. He reorganized administration, strengthened imperial control, and accepted a difficult reality. Then came Constantine. Constantine restored stronger central rule after another round of civil conflict. He founded Constantinople, shifting the center of gravity eastward. And most famously, he embraced Christianity. That decision changed history. Christianity, once persecuted, moved toward the center of imperial life. Over time, it would shape not only the Roman world, but the future of Europe and much of the wider world. But by now, the empire was changing fundamentally. The East was richer, more urban, and more resilient. The West was weaker, more fragmented, and harder to defend. Eventually, the empire was divided into eastern and western halves. That division made administration easier in one sense, but it also revealed a deeper truth. The Roman world was becoming too difficult to hold together as one unified system. The Eastern Empire would survive for centuries. The Western Empire would not. In the West, Rome faced increasing pressure. In the West, Rome faced increasing pressure from Germanic groups, military fragmentation, political weakness, and economic strain. Some groups entered Roman territory as migrants or allies. Others entered as invaders. Frontiers weakened. Imperial authority became unstable. Control slipped. Then came one of the great shocks of late antiquity. In AD 410, Rome was sacked by the Visigoths. For centuries, Rome had seemed untouchable. Now the impossible had happened. The empire did not end in that moment, but the psychological blow was enormous. The pressure kept building. Finally, in AD 476, the last Western Roman emperor was deposed. This date is often treated as the symbolic end of the Western Roman Empire. But Rome did not simply vanish overnight. Its people remained, its roads remained, its laws remained, its language remained, its religion remained, its memory remained, and that is why Rome still matters so much. The Roman Empire is not only a story of conquest, it is a story of systems, scale, ambition, organization, pressure, and transformation. Rome teaches us how civilizations rise. It also teaches us how they become vulnerable. A small city became a republic became a superpower became an empire reached astonishing heights, and then, under the weight of its own contradictions, it fractured. That arc is one of the most important patterns in world history. Even today, Rome's influence is everywhere. Roman law shaped modern legal systems. Latin shaped languages such as French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and Romanian. Roman architecture inspired future civilizations. The memory of Rome shaped kings, emperors, thinkers, and nations for centuries. And when modern people speak of empire, order, collapse, or civilization itself, Rome is usually somewhere in the background. That is why the story of Rome continues to fascinate the world. Because Rome was not just powerful, it became a model, a warning, a foundation, a myth. And in many ways, we still live in a world shaped by Rome. So now tell me what you think. Was Rome destroyed mainly by external enemies or by internal weakness? If you enjoyed this journey through the Roman Empire, like this video, subscribe for more, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next documentary on the nations, empires, and civilizations that shaped our world. Because to understand the present, we have to understand the past. And few stories make that clearer than the story of Rome.